What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue here with my 2024 college football schedule preview and projected record series. The Arkansas Razorbacks are up next before we preview their schedule for 2024 and give them an early projected record based on how tough their schedule is. Let's take a look back at what Arkansas did in 2023. Here were my projections and predictions last year for the Arkansas Razorbacks. My projection had them at 7-5, and then my prediction for this team was also 7-5, but Arkansas was way worse than that compared to my projection and predictions last year for this team. Arkansas going 4-8 last year in 2023, so kind of a disappointing season for the Razorbacks. Missed out on a bowl game, but it really wasn't just about the overall record. It was really about the schedule that they played last year in 2023, and here was that schedule last year for the Razorbacks. You look at their non-conference schedule. They played Western Carolina, Kent State, BYU, which they did end up losing there in the non-conference, and then, of course, FIU. So their non-conference schedule was not very tough, but they did lose to BYU here in the non-conference out of the Big 12. And then you look at the rest of the losses coming up here in conference play. They lost on the road to LSU here on September the 23rd. Lost to Texas A&M here in Arlington, Texas. Lost to Ole Miss and Alabama here in back-to-back road games. And then they lost home games here to Mississippi State, Auburn, and Missouri. So again, a very tough schedule last year, especially in the SEC Conference in 2023. Let's now look ahead to 2024. Here is the schedule for the upcoming season for Arkansas. Before we go game by game, let's take a look at who the Razorbacks will play in the non-conference this upcoming season. So this is their non-conference schedule. They will play University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then they do play Oklahoma State here on the road out of the Big 12. And that's a very interesting non-conference game there for Arkansas in week number 2 of the season. Again, they do play here on the road at Oklahoma State. That's a very tough place to play. And then you look at their other non-conference games, they'll play UAB and Louisiana Tech. So not a very tough non-conference schedule, but when you got Oklahoma State here in the non-conference, it does make the non-conference schedule a little bit tougher, and it's also a little bit tougher as well with it being on the road. So that's the non-conference schedule for Arkansas in 2024. Let's go back to the schedule now and go game by game here. So they will play University of Arkansas Pine Bluff to kick off the season here on August 31st, and then after that they do go on the road here to play Oklahoma State here on September the 7th in that week number 2 matchup in the non-conference. And then they play UAB here at home on September the 14th, so they will play 3 out of their 4 non-conference games to kick off the first 3 weeks of the season. And then after that, they open up SEC play here on the road at Auburn on September the 21st. And then they do play Texas A&M here on September the 28th at Arlington, Texas on a neutral site field. Again, they do play Texas A&M every year in Arlington, Texas on September the 28th. And then they do play Tennessee here as they go into the month of October. They'll play Tennessee here on October the 5th. That'll be a home game there for the Razorbacks. And then they get their first bye week here of the season. Their first bye week comes here in the second weekend of the month of October. They come out of the bye week and play LSU here at home on October the 19th. And then they play Mississippi State here on the road on October 26th. And then they do play at home here as they get into the month of November. They'll play Ole Miss here at home on November 2nd, and then they get their second bye week here of the season before a big game here against Texas at home on November 16th. Of course, one of the newcomers coming up in the conference. And then they do play their other non-conference game here against Louisiana Tech here on November 23rd. And then they close things out with Missouri here on the road on November 30th, a rivalry game you never know can happen. So that's the schedule for Arkansas in 2024. Another tough schedule for the Razorbacks, but the good news about this schedule, you don't have to play Alabama, of course, so that's the good news there, but you do get like some tough games here at home. You look at all 4 of these games though: Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas. These are all home games for the Razorbacks, and I think they'll definitely compete in them, especially playing here at home. And also, you do get a bye week here between Tennessee and LSU. You get a bye week before playing that LSU game at home, and then, of course, you get a bye week here in between Ole Miss and Texas. And you do get the bye week before playing Texas, so that's the good news about the bye week schedule. But let's get to the projection here for Arkansas in 2024. And, again, another very tough schedule here, especially playing Oklahoma State here on the road as well. But let's get to the projection now for Arkansas. Again, this is not my official prediction. This is simply a projection based on how tough the schedule is, and this is the scale I use here for my projections. If it's a 1% game in the red, those are counted as automatic losses in that percentage here in the red. 20% games in the orange are going to be games where Arkansas will be about a couple touchdowns of underdogs. 40% games in the yellow, they're going to be a heavy underdog in those games by about a touchdown at 40% in the yellow. 50-50 games will, of course, stay in the white. Games I think can go either way. And then 60% games here in the purple. These are games where Arkansas will be favored by at least a touchdown. And then 80% games here in the blue, they're going to be favored by a couple touchdowns and also by double digits here. And then the 99% games here in the green, these are pretty much the easy wins here for the Razorbacks. So we'll start with that percentage here first for Arkansas for 2024. Again, the easy wins here in the green and also the automatic wins here for 2024. And I think you got 3 easy games here for Arkansas: University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, UAB, and Louisiana Tech. I think Arkansas will be favored in all 3 of these games by at least more than 3 touchdowns, and I also think they'll be favored by at least over 95% as well. I know Louisiana Tech and UAB could be somewhat a little bit tough here for Arkansas, but I think Arkansas is definitely going to be more better this year. I think they'll be ready for these non-conference games this time, and I think they should be favored in all 3 of these games by at least by more than 3 touchdowns. So all 3 of these games, you can count them as automatic wins. They're not guaranteed wins. Like I just mentioned, every game is not a guaranteed win, but when we do these projections, they pretty much count as automatic wins. So you can count those 3 games as automatic wins here for Arkansas for 2024. Then you look at the rest of the schedule. There's not really any other big wins on here for Arkansas, and there's not really any other slight wins, and there's not any games here in the blue or purple. So let's go to the games now where Arkansas will be about an underdog in. I don't have any red or orange games on here at 1% and 20%, but I do have a lot of yellow games here on the schedule for Arkansas, the games that they'll be a slight underdog in and also by a slight touchdown as well. And I got 5 of them here in the yellow: Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas, all at home, and then of course Missouri here on the road. So I think Arkansas will be slight underdogs here in all 5 of these games here in the yellow. Tennessee, LSU, and Ole Miss, and Texas, these are all games here at home for Arkansas. And that's the reason why I'm putting all these games here in the yellow. I think they are definitely very winnable games. I think they're definitely upset alert type games as well. These are games that you don't want to sleep on if you're Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas. But for Arkansas, playing at home, that does give them a chance to probably upset one of these 4 teams here in the yellow. I think they do have a chance to probably win some of these games here in the yellow, maybe 2 out of the 4 games. But you look at the bye weeks, again, they do get a bye week before LSU, and then they get a bye week here before Texas. So those are definitely very winnable games when you're coming out of a bye week. So again, Arkansas, all 4 of these games are at home. They are definitely very winnable. Not saying they're going to win them and not saying they're going to lose to them. I think they'll be competitive in all 4 of these games at home. And then Missouri on the road. I know that's a rivalry game. You never know what can happen, but Arkansas got blown out by Missouri last year. Missouri definitely looks like the more better team this year, and with it being on the road, that's definitely a yellow game there for Arkansas. If it was at home, I definitely would put it in the white. So again, all 5 of these games, I think Arkansas will be a slight touchdown of an underdog here in all 5 of these games. Again, Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas all at home, and then Missouri here on the road. And then the rest of the 4 games here for the Razorbacks: Oklahoma State, Auburn on the road, Texas A&M, and then Mississippi State on the road. These are all 50-50 games for me for Arkansas. I think they can go either way. Oklahoma State's a pretty much a toss-up. I don't really know how good both of these teams are going to be when they play each other, but again, Oklahoma State might be the more better team, and they might be the favorite by at least a field goal. And like I said, that's a non-conference game. I know it's on the road. Oklahoma State should be favored in that game, but I think it will be a back-and-forth game here between these 2 teams. And then, of course, Auburn. I think both of these teams are pretty even. You know, last year was a first-year head coach for Auburn, and, obviously Arkansas coming off a very disappointing season. I think both of these rosters are pretty even, so I'm expecting a shootout there between Auburn and Arkansas. And then Texas A&M, that's a rivalry game. You never know what can happen. It's obviously a neutral site field, and that's obviously a 50-50 game when it comes to that neutral site matchup. And then Mississippi State here on the road, they're going to have a first-year head coach, but, Mississippi State, beat Arkansas last year, and that's the reason why I'm making this one a 50-50 game. And plus, the Bulldogs are playing at home in this game as well. So, again, that's a very tough place to play there on the road at Mississippi State. So, again, all four of these games, I think, are your 50-50 games here for Arkansas. Let's now get a projected record here for 2024 for the Razorbacks. And, again, not my official prediction. This is simply a projection based on how tough the schedule is. So, again, we count all the three non-conference games as automatic wins here in the green, and then you average out all these 5 yellow games here at 40%, and then you average out those 4 50-50 games here at 50%. And the overall projected record for Arkansas for 2024 comes out to be 6-6 here for the Razorbacks. So a 6-6 projection, a little bit of a lower projection compared to me last year. Last year I had them at 7-5. This year I got them at 6-6. It's kind of hard to tell how good Arkansas is going to be. I know this is going to be a really good team, but the schedule again is very tough. And again, with this kind of schedule, it does make the projection come out to be 6-6. I think best case scenario would definitely have to be 7-5. If they go 8-4, that's definitely a better accomplishment than last year. But if they go like 5-7 or 4-8 again, I mean, that's definitely going to be a very big disappointment. And I think Arkansas fans will probably consider Sam Pittman to be on the hot seat. So again, Arkansas is going to have a really good season this year in order to kind of, save Sam Pittman's job a little bit until next year. So again, a 6-6 projection here for 2024 for Arkansas. Give me your thoughts on this Arkansas team down in the comments below. What do you think their projected record is for 2024? And thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports Channel.